Hey, welcome to episode 5 of Dads and Daughters. And last week we had a great show. My friend Dave Paris and his battle from COVID-19. Ethan Chang, incredible story. Wesley Walker, special guest. So this week, first of all, I also want to plug, I got my boxing trainer, Irish Mickey Ward, wearing his little hoodie there. So if you want to check it out at box2burngym.com. A lot of Irish Mickey Ward merchandise. And Jenna, is Daddy ready for the fight with Jerry Cooney? Who's going to win June 5th? Dempsey versus Cooney in the main event for YCS Fight Night. Daddy? No, she doesn't. She's not convinced about my chances against Jerry, but we'll see. Working on her. So we have a great episode this week. Very personal topic for us and our family. And want to introduce, it's a topic that's really near and dear to a lot of parents. Anti-bullying and teen suicide and some really tough issues. We want to introduce the story behind Mallorys Army, show you a little clip that's going to be a documentary movie that's going to be out in theaters in February coming up. So we could roll that clip and have Dianne Grossman on.
Hi, Mally.
I don't know how you don't break down just talking about it.
Hello?
911, where's your emergency?
It was a new school, lockers. It was supposed to have all the elements of a fresh start.
Oh my God. Okay.
Mallory was very fun to be with.
She had so much spirit. She loved everyone and everything in life.
She would talk about wanting to go visit the horizon. To her, the horizon was a place that you could go to.
Right. She's not breathing?
No.
How old is she? How? 12?
Yes.
There are no words to describe a child laying in a casket. That's yours. Mallorys Grossman was a 6th grade student in Rockaway Township. She took her own life after 9 months of bullying at school.
With the texting and Instagram, it's just 24/7. 2 in the morning, hey, you're stupid. 3 in the morning, you're stupid. Go kill yourself.
This morning, the parents of 12-year-old Mallory Grossman say they will sue her school.
She was like, I just don't want her to be the poster child for this. And I looked at her and I said, she is the poster child. You have to make her the poster child.
Mallory does not represent a child that is awkward or different. She represents all of our children.
It's important that your affirmations of who you are and what you want to be in this life don't come from the outside world. They've got to come from within. The one thing I didn't anticipate was how stressful speaking to the schools would be for me personally.
No matter how many times we say, I'm sorry, the black marks stay.
This isn't about Mallory, it's about the other Mallorys out there. To me, it's about the children that are still here. For me, the sea of blue just represents a real rainbow of inclusion and acceptance and community. Even though Mallory passed, she is living a life of what she wanted to be when she grew up.
Very moving as a parent who's had a teenager who's struggled with mental health issues and had one point suicidal tendencies or just concerns. This was really near and dear to my heart, and Kelly found Mallorys Army, the organization, a couple of years ago. So I'm pleased to introduce Dianne Grossman on the air. Thank you so much for being on this show and being a friend to both of us. And you're up in New Jersey, and we're New Yorkers, so we have this New York, New Jersey thing going on.
Right. Thank you so much for having us today. It's so awesome to be a part and share Mallory's story and to be a part of this movement. So thank you for having me today.
Well, usually I do a lot of the questions, and this is the point where I want Kelly to ask. She put together some questions that she wanted to ask you, Dianne.
Yeah.
About your organization and your background and stories. So I'll let you take it away, Kelly.
Can you tell us who was Mallory and what were some things she enjoyed?
So Mallory is the youngest of my 4 children. Mallory, so I have 4 children. I have Kristen, Ryan, Carly, and then of course Mallory. She was a 12-year-old, normal, everyday little all-American little girl. She was a level 7 competitive gymnast. She loved gymnastics. She loved cheerleading. She loved arts and crafts. And she just really was my the thing I use to describe Mallory is that she's just the everyday, all-American little girl. You know, when we think of what an American little girl looks like, we think of Mallory. And so that's the best way for me to describe her, is she truly was just full of so much life, and she was funny, and she was sarcastic, and she really did see life for so much more. She wanted to be philanthropic. She wanted to be a part of something that was so much greater than herself. She was a good student. She had lots of friends. So, you know, we have 2 little dogs, and she loved her little dogs. And it's just everything about our family was normal, just almost a vanilla, very, very boring, very vanilla.
What made you want to start Mallorys Army?
I didn't really want to. I didn't really want to. I love female entrepreneurship, and I think I own a small business myself, and so I was always about sharing the love of female empowerment, and of course I am so excited that I got to witness us electing a female vice president. So, you know, for me, I didn't want to start Mallorys Army. It was kind of given to me. It was literally the day after Mallory took her own life, whereas Mallory's best friend's mom said to me, Kitty, she's like, you have to speak out. And I just was like, no, I did not want Mallory to turn into the poster child of anti-bullying. And like she said in the clip, she already was. By the time Mallory passed away on a Wednesday, by the time we actually kind of figured out what was going on, she was all over news outlets. She was all over Facebook. There was newscasters in our driveway. So Mallorys Army was given to me. And rather than fighting it, I thought, well, let me just run with this and see what it turns into. And it really has turned into an incredible movement.
What are some ways you think children and school administration can be equipped to handle bullying when it arises?
Well, I think the first thing with bullying is I think we need to understand that bullying is nothing more than really bad behavior. I think that we as a society look at bullying as this standalone thing when bullying is linked to so many other things. Bullying is just a symptom of what's going on throughout our world. So bullying is a choice. It's just bad behavior. So for me, I think that schools and administrators, first of all, need to acknowledge that bullying today is not bullying of yesteryear. I think that what happens a lot of times is that we think of bullying as like a rite of passage, right? You'll be a better person because you were bullied, or you will overcome this, or you will become resilient because people picked on you or made fun of you. And the truth of it is that's just not true at all. You don't become a better human being because you were tormented as a child or as an adult. So I think the first thing that school systems have to do is acknowledge that bullying is a bigger problem that we think it is. It's so much bigger than, you know, the big kid taking the little kid's lunch money. It's gone past that. I also think that school systems need to kind of wave the white flag and say, hey, I need some help here. I think that they have protected themselves and insulated themselves from the outside world and the community, like this is our problem, we'll handle it, when the reality is because this problem is such a large problem and it's so complicated that I think that it's time for them to recognize that this is not something that they can do on their own. And so rather than saying that this is a school problem, I think that we have to acknowledge that this is a community problem. And the reason why it's a community problem is because of social media. Social media allows children from multiple school districts, multiple communities to cross-pollinate abuse. And because of that, it creates this gang-like behavior of it's no longer just 4 or 5 kids at school hate me. It's now the entire community, the entire world hates me. And so I think that gang-like behavior brings in the component of the mental abuse. And so schools, administrators, all of that, I think it's time for them to recognize that we have a bigger problem on our hands. And rather than saying, well, we can handle it, I think it's time that they reach out to organizations like myself and various other organizations and understand and also partner with us. I think that the laws have to change. I just don't think that this is something that's small and insignificant. It's a lot bigger problem, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, I think you answered Kelly's next question, which was on social media, but the next question you have, Kelly, is...
do you feel social media helps play a part in why bullying...
Well, actually, the next question. Why don't you ask the next question about...
What can a parent do when their child is being bullied, and how can they open up the lines of communication with their child on what goes on at school?
So I think when it comes to a parent that their child is being bullied, I think that the first thing is that, again, understanding that it's not just a little thing. The other thing I think that parents have to understand is our children are not going to tell us the full story about what's going on. I didn't tell my parents everything that was going on in my life as a teenager. Mike, you didn't tell your parents. We don't confide in our parents everything that's going on. So for parents to be naive, to believe that their children are telling them everything that's going on, I think that that's a dangerous thing. I hear mothers all the time will say, well, I'm my daughter's best friend. No, your daughter is manipulating you. You're not your daughter's best friend. Your daughter or your son is manipulating you to think that, because the reality is that kids do hide things from us. And so the first thing when you feel that your child is being bullied, the first thing you need to know is, first and foremost, how are you going to handle it? What's the chain of command? What are the laws in your state? You know, every state is different. Hopefully your platform has a broad reach. So we're talking New York and New Jersey, but in New Jersey, it's one of those things where cyberbullying, we've acknowledged it, but our law on cyberbullying is more than 15 years old. So, you know, technology has progressed past that. So I think for parents that feel like their child is being bullied, you need to understand what the definition of bullying is in your state. You need to understand what the chain of command, what is the school really required to do? I think that we just come up to the school, we say something like, oh, this is what's happening, when the reality is the school may not have the powers that you think that they do. I think if your child is being cyberbullied, you have to screenshot it. And again, take it to the police, put things in writing, report things. But at the end of the day, the best thing for any parent to do is ask their child. Our children have a unique ability to kind of let us know what their peers are like. We like to think that we know what their peers are like, but sometimes it would be really nice is if we ask our children, you know, what would you like for us to do? Maybe they do have a solution for their own problems. And in that moment, parents have to put the listening ears on. We have to be prepared to hear that things aren't as great and it's not just going to go away. We can't just ignore those girls or ignore those guys or don't worry about what they say. Our children are experiencing a significant journey than what we are. And I think it's really important that we start listening to the experts. And again, if our children are 10, 11, 12 years old, maybe they don't need to be on platforms that we don't know enough about. I say to parents in any of my parent talks, I say to them, your children have a master's degree in Snapchat and you barely have an associate's. Why would you ever let your children use a platform that you don't know enough about? And so I think it's really important that we get educated as parents before and understand what the terms and conditions are for using these platforms, understanding what the struggles might be for our children, and plug in as parents. Our children don't need to be plugged in 24/7. If you're worried about your children, get them off the internet. Their phone is not an alarm clock. It's not a phone. It's a mini computer. There are things that we can do as parents to plug back in to simplify our lives and to make things as far as bullying and cyberbullying and simplify it just a little bit.
As a parent, I could totally relate because when Kelly had a crisis a couple of years ago, she had her own passcode, didn't want us to have it. Like most kids don't want to share that. I was able to crack the code, right? And saw all these disturbing notes. Well, I would say
I was going through an issue with another friend that I had, and she was making me feel bad. So it wasn't like to the degree of bullying, but it was like she was kind of making me feel bad about myself, and that put me in under a lot of stress.
Right. So here's what we have to understand about bullying. We think of bullying as the big kid is shoving the little kid and everything. bullying is nothing more than bad behavior, and bullying is when someone makes you feel bad about yourself, or makes you feel uncomfortable, or interferes with your ability, or starts to imply anxiety or sadness or impression. By definition, now whether you feel it is or not, but by definition, that is bullying. And so, we as humans, as the human race, our job is to lift people up, not make them feel bad about themselves. And so, for us to dismiss, and that's generally what kids like Kelly will do. And even so, case in Mallory's case is that they will lower the standards of what's accepted. They will pretend it's not that big of a deal, or Mom, I can handle it. And they do that. That's their own self-preservation, because their peers are so important to them. And so they will, lower what's the standards of what we think it is. And as parents, it's our job to parent in those situations.
Kelly, do you want to ask her about what is Mallory's?
What is Mallory's law?
So we worked with Senator Panaccio here in New Jersey, as well as some other bipartisan members of, including Senator Ruiz, who was the chair of the Education Committee. Mallory's law put some teeth in the law. Mallory's law requires accountability for parents. I think one of the most important things is that understanding that parents are responsible. Parents are the ones that put these cell phone devices in their children's hands. So I think it's important that we understand that. So accountability for parents. It also creates more transparency in the school system. I think a lot of times, particularly in middle school, schools like to close the doors and say to, this is our house, so we don't need any help from you, when the reality is that they do. So Mallory's law really does create some more transparency, some accountability for the schools and the parents. Unfortunately, it passed the Senate with flying colors, but when it came time to go to the Assembly, it did not make it past that. So we had to start all over. But I always say they messed with the wrong mom. And so I'll go back to the drawing boards, and we will rewrite and reapply and do what it takes to make some changes to the current HIB law here in New Jersey. And I would love to see federal law. It's time for federal law when it comes to cyber issues.
We've already done so much to spread awareness about the issues, obviously, and I do believe that you are going to make a lot of change legislatively in the next number of years. So I'm totally behind Mallorys Army. We are all here. I want to introduce at this point a special guest that went through bullying herself as a child, and she's actually from right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, where me and Kelly and Jenna are. Kaylin Robertson, and hopefully she's backstage. There she is. And Kaylin's a Nashville recording artist, and amazing family that blessed to have known for a number of years. And when she was 9 years old, she had her grandparents' dog attack her, and I think it severed her gums and ripped off part of her lip, and she had scars. And I think she was teased and had some self-confidence issues, and went through she had to undergo plastic surgery, 200 stitches, and just struggled with that topic as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old of bullying, a lot of self-confidence issues. She found her salvation and her strength in her music, her love of music, and she has come a long way in the last 10, 11, 12 years, and now she started writing her own songs, and she used to walk the red carpet, the American Music Awards, the CMT Awards. I mean, she is all over the Nashville recording map, and she's got a great album coming out soon. But I want to introduce Kaylin, and she's a special person in our family. So Kaylin, thanks for joining us on this important topic. And why don't you let us know what you were part of a couple of tours when you were in middle school too. I think one was the teen tour that helped obviously connect kids who were struggling with this topic, and just to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, a tour called the Teen Nation Tour actually reached out to me specifically because they would go from different cities and different states and talk to kids about bullying in the school systems. And they wanted a local artist for the Raleigh tour. And I obviously, with everything that I'd been through with the dog attack and just like growing up thinking of myself as being a little bit different than every other kid in school, I was like, I really want to be a part of this. And I actually switched in high school. I switched to online school so that I could keep touring and visiting schools to talk to kids about bullying. And yeah, I did that for about 3 years. It was called the Teen Nation Tour. And the whole goal of the tour obviously was to bring awareness to bullying and help kids understand the different types of bullying. Because I think that a lot of them, like Dianne said, they only really see the big kid takes the other kid's lunch. There's no cyberbullying talk. There's no bullying yourself. And so I kind of wanted to bring that aspect, especially with what I went through. We're just kind of talking too about being confident enough in yourself and learning to love yourself enough not to care about what other people, think. And so the Teen Nation Tour is a huge part of my story, and I'm really grateful for them as an organization. And I think that there needs to be a lot more of that happening in school systems. And it's sad to say that it has died down in the past few years. A lot of schools don't really want to partner up with young kids like me because they don't want to take their kids out of classrooms, stuff like that. But I think that we had a big impact on the school system.
It was amazing. You went to high schools all over the country, as I recall, and you did a lot of work with St. Jude's. I remember in Memphis, you did a lot of activity helping kids who had cancer, struggling. And Dianne, I know you have started a thing with your group called the Parent Project, which I think is bring families together who are dealing with tough issues, whether it's COVID or cyberbullying as well, and a 504 versus an IEP, just various topics. And how did that come about?
Well, so Mallorys Army is our 501 charitable organization, and we believe our mission statement is empower kids. So the reason why I'm here today, Mike, I am so happy to meet you, but I'm here today because of Kelly. Because if I can inspire her and empower her to share her story, so to me, that's the first leg in our chair of making life better. The second leg in our chair is education for parents, and that's really what the Parent Project is really all about. It's really about putting language in parents' minds so that they can understand. So one of the problems I had is that why wait until there's a problem in order to make a difference? So educating parents, and that's really what the Parent Project is all about. The third leg is enrichment programs for school. Like what Kaylin was just saying, is it's really important for schools to invite people like us into their school systems. I know it's difficult now with COVID, but if you invite people like us in, our heart-wrenching story does change lives. And so when you can hear it, because what it does for children is it really does personalize what abuse and bullying really is. And then, of course, enhancing communities. And that's what I think shows like this do, is it enhances the community and the people around you. And so that's what Mallorys Army, the Parent Project, and all of our platforms is all about. It's just really bringing people together and to understand what we're all about.
And Kelly's last question before we have Kaylin sing a great song for us is, when people think of Mallory, what do you hope they remember about her? That was her question.
That just because she's gone, she's not gone. That Mallory lives in each and every one of us. That if we let Mallory go, then all of our work is a moot point. That Mallory can live in all of us. You don't have to meet her to know her. Mallory is every little girl who has been excluded from a lunch table. Mallory is every little girl that's been called fat or stupid or unwanted. Mallory represents not Mallory, but she represents all of us, Kaylin, Dianne, and Kelly, and every other Mallory out there. So when people think of Mallory, I want them to think of their own children and to understand what it's like to have a child hurt themselves because of the way that they are treated at school and online. This has to end, and it has to end with all of us. That it's okay to have an opinion, but it's not okay to abuse somebody on a platform that is designed to lift people up. The like button was designed to bring people together. It wasn't designed for community abuse.
And what did Mallory do to help send children with cancer to summer camp? That's my last question.
Mallory supported an organization called Camp Good Days, and she used to make the little rainbow loom bracelets, and she would sit out at the campground and she would sell those bracelets, and all of the money would go to Camp Good Days, which is a camp for kids with cancer. And that's where our mantra comes from. It's a bracelet kind of life. We believe that putting a bracelet on your arm to remember to be the good in the world is really where it starts. You know, we used to tie a string around our finger to remember to pick up milk and bread and cereal from the grocery store, but now we put a bracelet on our arm to remember to be the good in the world. And that's really what it's all about, is homemade bracelets can make a difference.
That's great. Well, Kaylin's got a great song to share with us. And I know in November 20th, you got your Breakup Proof EP coming out, right, Kaylin? So we'll share the link on our pages for that. I think the song you are going to sing for us is called Who We Are, and it's all about loving yourself. So I think that's great.
I wrote this song, I'd say, when it was before I lived in Nashville. I want to say I was 16 when I wrote it. And it just has a special place in my heart because it's just a little bit about, you know, just loving who you are. And that's something that I've had struggles with. And I think every kid, especially middle school, high school age, everyone goes through that. Even adults go through that. So
I can't wait.
Speaks to everybody. Everybody has something that they change if they could. The waistline, the lip size, you got yours, I got mine. But just cause we got things to fix it don't mean we should. Touch up with makeup to hide what we made up. Why would you want to be one with the crowd when you're made to stay tonight? All our flaws, all our scars, show them off like beauty marks. All our perfect imperfections, they don't need the world to correct them. They won't break us or change us, cause they make us. Ooh, ooh, who we are, it's who we are. Tell me, is it worth it to be like everybody else? Just admit it, make friends, and lose what makes you different. And why would you want to be one with the crowd, like a queen without a crown? All our flaws, all our scars, show them all like beauty marks. All our perfect imperfections, they don't need the world to correct. They won't break us or change us, cause they make us. Ooh, ooh, who we are, it's who we are. Yeah, who we are. All our flaws, all our scars, show them off like beauty marks. All our perfect imperfections, they don't need the world to correct. They won't break us or change us, cause they make us. They won't break us or change us, cause they make us. Ooh, ooh. Who we are, who we are. Ooh, ooh, who we are.
Wow. Amazing. Such a beautiful song.
That was great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
In closing, I just want to share and thank tremendously, Dianne, everything you're doing. Mallory'sArmy.org is your website, correct?
Yeah.
Kaylin, you have your KaylinRobertson.com. I'm right. Is it .com or .org? .com, right? Okay. Yeah. And we'll have links to all that. And thanks to everybody. Incredible episode. hopefully everybody was inspired, and you definitely have inspired us, both of you, and keep doing the great work you're doing. And we hope to have you back on a future show. So in closing, see you all next week.
Bye. Bye, Kelly. Bye, Kaylin. Nice to meet you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.